When I was in 7th grade, our social studies teacher had us do a project that half of the class had to create a civilization from scratch. That meant artifacts and different types of materials, and the other half, after we were done creating the civilization, had to decipher what the civilization meant based on the artifacts that we presented them. When I did that, I thought about when you walk through Jerusalem, when you walk through Masada, even to this day, the archaeologists that you see in front of you, literally digging up our history that matches our Torah's narrative. You might have even seen a couple of weeks ago the 2,000-year-old road in the city of David, holy to both Jews and Christians. I remember the first time I walked through that road before it was open publicly with an APAC trip, taking a picture and sending it to my friends here in Los Angeles who were priests and pastors, noting our common bond of the Holy Land. But after our ancient exiles, both in 586 BCE and 70 of the Common Era, we lost a lot. We lost Jewish sovereignty, we lost a connection to land, we even lost a language where Hebrew was no longer living like it is today. But we also received a gift. And that gift was how to preserve a culture and a heritage no matter where we would go. And while books and buildings and artifacts can come and go, there is one thing that is part of our soul that we can take wherever we are. And that's what we saw this morning. It's music and melody. Wherever the Jews traveled, as we saw this morning from our wonderful speakers, community members, what came with them were the sacred words. But those sacred words went into different languages and sounded different. Last month, when we commemorated International Holocaust Remembrance Day, we had children of survivors, Sinai Temple members, speak, and they spoke about the power of Yiddish in their language from generation to generation. Next month, when we celebrate Nowruz here at Sinai Temple, we'll have members of the Persian community speak about the power of the language of Farsi and the melodies and songs that they grew up with that we continue to put into our services. And if you were from the lands of Sfard, the Iberian Peninsula of Spain and Portugal, who lived thousands of years there through a golden era, you spoke the language of Ladino. Until in 1492, the Jews were expelled by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. And those Jews too dispersed around the world, but they did not lose their Spanish connection of culture and Jewish heritage, most often carried through the sound of music. We're very good at singing songs and even knowing lyrics, but we're not so great at learning the history behind those lyrics and the connection to our culture. And so that's why we decided to have Ladino Shabbat connected to Parashat Terumah and the construction of the Mishkan, the Tabernacle. One of those directions in the Mishkan is this. When you build the beautiful Mishkan, the Tabernacle, the sanctuary, you should have 10 curtains. And on those 10 curtains, you should have 50 golden clasps. And those clasps should basically be folded into one on top of each other. And the sentence ends, vehaya Mishkan echad. They should all be together as one tabernacle, as one whole and one sanctuary. The medieval commentator Ibn Ezra explains that yes, the tabernacle is called one, even though any physical entity is made up of various elements. The idea is that it is whole. And Ibn Ezra says the same is true with God, that God is made up of everything, Ein Sof. There is no end. And at the same time, when we take out the Torah, what do we say? Adonai echad. God is one. And the same is true if you look in the book of Isaiah, where the angels sing, and the angels have very different roles, and at the same time, they say the same words that we say every single day. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Holy, holy, holy. And the same is true for us. At Sinai Temple, a living, breathing community that you and I and all of us together create. each of us representing a different curtain, a different golden clasp. And yet we are in this room together, a Mishkan echad, one tabernacle, with Hebrew, with Farsi, with Yiddish, and today with Ladino. Ladino spread all over the world. Yes, it began in Spain, but we heard about Mexico and Cuba, and it spread to North Africa and to Greece, where there were 50,000 Jews in Salonika speaking the Ladino until the Nazis murdered those Jews. In Turkey and Yugoslavia and Bulgaria and South America and Romania and France, and even in the land of Israel. Ladino was the language of an oral tradition that nobody could destroy. Medieval poems accompanied Sephardic history. And the most famous one that our Sinai Temple community choir just sang, Cuando el Rey Nimrod, translated as When King Nimrod. What is this song about? The song, if you remember, Avraham Avinu, Abraham our father, the father of monotheism. We know the famous midrash of him tossing the idols out of his father's house. But who is Nimrod? Nimrod was a king who was an astrologer, as Rosa explained actually that I did not know about pointing to the stars and what that looked like in Sephardic Jewish history. But Nimrod will look at the stars, and he looked at one time at the stars and he realized that Abraham was going to be born. And he didn't like that because he knew that monotheism was going to take over. And so many, many years before King Pharaoh, he did the same exact thing that we read in the plagues of our Seder. He said every young boy should be taken away and killed. Very similar to our Passover story. But miraculously, one child survived. Avraham Avinu, the father of monotheism. The chorus goes, Padre bendigo a luz de Israel. God, you have blessed us with a light unto Israel. And today that song is sung around the Shabbat table. And of course, it's sung at a Brit Milah in the Sephardic tradition because of our connection to Abraham, the first person to circumcise and have a Brit Milah. But if I asked you when this song was composed, I thought it would have been in the 1400s in Spain. But this song was not composed until the 18th century, in the 1700s, from Jews who left Spain who still spoke the language of Ladino in the Ottoman Empire. They had no land of Spain that they were connected to. But they had a culture. They had a heritage. They had Sephardic history that they wanted to preserve, still acknowledging the first Jew, Avraham Avinu. So today, of Parashat Terumah, when we read of that construction manual of the tabernacle, we read of Avraham Avinu, the idea of spiritual oneness. And on the other hand, what was the point of building the Mishkan, the tabernacle? It was Mishkan echad. It was a place for physical oneness. In the command to build the tabernacle, there were 10 curtains and 50 clasps, with the important idea of all one. This week I spoke to the 8th graders of Sinai Academy, and it was a lesson about God. And I handed them a piece of paper with 49 different descriptions of how God is portrayed in the Torah and rabbinic tradition. And I said, choose the one that relates to you, and not one of the students chose the same one. Somebody chose Ribono Shel Olam, the master of the universe. Another chose Hamakor, God is the source. Another said, God is Avinu Malkeinu, a parent figure. Somebody said, God is Shekhinah, a motherly presence. And another child said, Ein Sof, God is everything, there is no end. And I said, you're right, and you're right, and you're right too. There's Adonai echad. God is one. God did not tell us to make many curtains, so there will be many curtains. But God clasped them together as one. Do Jews have differences? That's one of our strengths. Our defining characteristic. We have Sephardic and Mizrahi and Ashkenazic. Our diaspora extends to every single corner of this earth. We have been welcomed and we have been exiled. We have been part of every human experience, but ultimately, no matter where we are and where we will go, we will always be Adonai echad. am echad. One God and one people. That's the beauty of this synagogue. There was no need to go outside of our walls and ask somebody who was Sephardic or somebody from a country that speaks Spanish to come and tell us about their heritage. We have it here. There was no need last month to go find children of Holocaust survivors and tell us about their history. We have it here. And next month, when we celebrate Nowruz, there's no need to walk outside these walls and find somebody who was born in Iran who sees their sacred Persian culture as part of their Jewish identity. We have that here too. That is our tapestry. This sanctuary has 10 curtains and 50 golden clasps, and yet ultimately connected to Avraham, la luz de Israel, to Abraham, the light of the people Israel. So that's why our Torah this morning tells us, vehaya Mishkan echad. Don't build 2 or 3 or 10 sanctuaries. Maybe build 2 synagogues on the block. But do something different. Build one sanctuary and have many different curtains. And when you do, as we read in our Torah portion this morning, v'shachanti b'tocham, then God will dwell among us. So as our Sephardic ancestors tell us, when Shabbat, let it be a good Shabbat. Shabbat and Pas. Let it be a peaceful Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom.